This video was brought to you by CuriosityStream. Since the war in Ukraine began, Turkey's president, Erdogan, has happily played both sides. Despite being a member of NATO and a candidate country for EU membership, Turkey has refused to join in with Western-led sanctions and has instead positioned itself as a possible mediator between the two sides, mediating negotiations and guaranteeing the grain export deal agreed in July. However, over the past couple of weeks, it looks like Erdogan has finally ditched Putin, with Turkey suspending Russian credit cards, halting all military cooperation, and even demanding that Crimea be returned to Ukraine. So in this video, we're going to look at Ankara's relationship with Moscow, why it's broken down, and what this all means for Putin. So let's start with a quick recap on the state of Russia-Turkey relations previously. For most of modern history, Russia and Turkey haven't been that close. Turkey was a member of NATO, and the two countries were on opposing sides of various foreign policy issues. In Syria, for example, Russia backs Assad while Turkey backs the rebels. In Libya, Russia supports the Libyan National Army in the east of the country, while Turkey has Syrian mercenaries and its own troops helping the government of national accord in the west. And in Nagorno-Karabakh, Turkey supports Azerbaijan, while Russia is Armenia's only real security partner. However, relations warmed after the failed coup in 2016, which Erdogan claimed was masterminded by Fethullah Gulen, an Islamic scholar and former Erdogan ally who had helped Erdogan and his AKP party win power in the 2000s before the two began falling out in the 2010s. Europe and the US were only half-hearted in their criticism of the coup, both because they were sympathetic to the idea that Erdogan's Islamic-tinted authoritarianism was eroding Turkish democracy, and because they were unconvinced by Erdogan's claims that the whole thing was masterminded by Gulen. Western countries were therefore a bit concerned by the resulting purge, which saw some 77,000 people arrested and another 160,000 fired for alleged connections to Gulen. Both the German and British intelligence services expressed doubt about Erdogan's accusations, and the European Commissioner dealing with Turkey's EU membership bid, Johannes Hahn, said Turkey had a pre-prepared arrest list of political opponents. While Obama said that the US supported Erdogan's government, Erdogan accused the head of the US Central Command, General Joseph Votel, of, quote, siding with coup plotters after Votel criticized the Turkish government for arresting the Pentagon's contacts in Turkey. The US also refused to extradite Gulen, who's lived in Pennsylvania since 1999. Putin, on the other hand, was unrestrained in his support. The Russian president called Erdogan out of solidarity before any NATO leader, and there were even reports that Russian security services stationed in nearby Syria tipped off the Turkish government in advance, possibly saving Erdogan's life. Before 2016, Erdogan and Putin hadn't got on so well, and just a year beforehand, Turkish fighter jets shot down a Russian Su-24 in the Turkey-Syria border area, culminating in a public apology in June 2016. The two Turkish pilots involved in the confrontation were actually arrested as part of the post-coup purge, in a move that was widely perceived as a gesture of respect to Putin. From 2016 until, well, last month, relations between Erdogan and Putin just kept on improving. Now, while there's a personal affinity here, Putin and Erdogan are both strongmen presidents who've been in power for the best part of 2 decades, it's worth making clear that Erdogan's relationship with Putin was mostly driven by self-interest. It gave Erdogan leverage against the West, played well with his domestic base who aren't so keen on the West, and provided Turkey with a cheap and reliable source of energy. For context, Russia is Turkey's main energy supplier, and Turkey usually imports about 50% of its gas from Russia. To be clear, when we say that Erdogan was acting out of self-interest, that's not a criticism. That's often how policy works, after all. We're just saying that acknowledging the fact that Erdogan is more of a hard-nosed realist than most Western politicians helps to explain his apparently contradictory policy postures. Anyway, this self-interestedness continues into the war in Ukraine. Turkey sold copious amounts of arms to Ukraine, including some much coveted drones, whilst using the proceeds to buy discounted oil in bulk, having refused to participate in Western-led sanctions. Turkey then delayed NATO application to force the Nordics into taking more of a hawkish stance against the Kurds, much to Russia's delight and America's dismay. As the only NATO member with good relations with Putin, Erdogan then positioned himself as a mediator in Russia-Ukraine negotiations, boosting Ankara's international credibility and successfully negotiating a grain deal back in July. You get the idea. Throughout the war in Ukraine, Erdogan has been happy to play both sides as long as it's been in his immediate self-interest. However, over the past few weeks, Turkey's attitude towards Russia has shifted. Last week, two of Turkey's largest banks, presumably under direction from Ankara, announced that they wouldn't be accepting MIA cards. For those of you who don't know, MIA, which translates to world in Russian, is a Russian payment processing system that many Russians resorted to after Visa and MasterCard stopped offering services for Russian accounts. Since the war began, the US has been pressuring Turkey to stop accepting MIA cards. But Turkey has resisted because, well, lots of Russians were spending cash in Turkey, and that was good news for Turkey's faltering economy. Since this announcement, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan and Tajikistan have also suspended MIA, and on Wednesday, this suspension was extended to every bank in Turkey. But perhaps most significantly, in an interview last week with PBS NewsHour, Erdogan said that Russia should withdraw from all Ukrainian territory, including Crimea. While Erdogan paid lip service to Turkey's alleged neutrality, insisting that the war wouldn't be won by, quote, taking sides, he issued his most explicit criticism of Putin's invasion to date, saying that Russia's invasion cannot be justified and that all of Ukraine, as well as Crimea, should be returned to Ukraine. So why is this? Why is Erdogan suddenly soured on Putin? Well, it's probably just self-interest, as is usually the case with Erdogan. Presumably, Erdogan just doesn't think Putin is a good bet anymore. The war in Ukraine isn't going well. Russia's current account deficit is widening, and his strategy of escalation has spooked even avowedly neutral countries like India. At the moment, siding with the US and the West looks like a better bet from Erdogan's point of view, which is presumably why he's bowed to US pressure over sanctions. Nonetheless, the West shouldn't be complacent here. This is just Erdogan looking out for himself, and his recent comments over Greece should make it clear that he still has a fair few bones to pick with his NATO counterparts. Nonetheless, it's still bad news for Putin, especially in the context of ongoing struggles on the battlefield and anti-conscription upset within Russia. And on the off chance that Putin is watching, if he needs cheering up, we also have a bunch more fun content too.
Like our team attempting the British citizenship test, our blooper reel.
On Wednesday, Peru's Prime Minister... Oh, God. I'm just going to ask next door. I'll be back. Turns out there's a bunch of useless next door.
Our office tour, and our interview with TV expert Scott Bryan about why Piers Morgan and Talk TV are failing. Now, all of these videos are exclusive to the streaming service that we made with our creator friends, Nebula. Now, don't worry, I know that times are really tough at the moment, and that's why it's good news that Nebula is only about $1 a month if you sign up using the Nebula Curiosity Stream bundle. Here's how it works. We reached out to the good chaps at Curiosity Stream and said, hey, you have a superb streaming service full of some of the most high-quality documentaries available online. They emailed back saying, you mean highest quality, but sure. Now, I don't always appreciate pedantry like this, but they're right, we should have said highest, and they put forward an offer that we couldn't refuse. They said that anyone who signed up to their streaming service using this link, it's in the description, don't worry, will get access to Nebula absolutely free. Now, I like free things, so we said yes. So if you click the link below, you'll pay less than $15 a year for Curiosity Stream and all of the extra TLDR stuff on Nebula. That's just over $1 a month. So get yourself exclusive TLDR videos that will never come to YouTube. All of our videos ad-free, and some of our videos earlier than they come to YouTube by signing up now. For legal reasons, this exchange is entirely fictionalized, and honestly, I don't know how the deal was done. I'm not a legal kind of guy, so I wasn't in the room when it happened anyway. Also, just because I made this up doesn't mean that the rest of the stuff in this video wasn't true. Everything else I say is always 100% accurate, okay? Regardless, you should sign up.